Hello there, welcome back to the 31st session on Oracle Architectural Journey. We have been discussing this document about categories of checkpoints. We mentioned that there are mainly three types of checkpoints: global checkpoint, and incremental checkpoint, or the log switch checkpoint, and partial checkpoint. Actually, I just made a small change to the document because I just separated log switch checkpoint and incremental checkpoint. That is again to make you easy to understand those things, and again to get more aligned with the documentation. Then if you notice, even in the documentation, they are talking about something called thread checkpoints. So thread checkpoints more or equal to global checkpoints, and again in that they are categorizing the online log switch. But the thing is, now we understood in the hands-on, during the hands-on, there is nothing called thread checkpoints in terms of practicality. Now we need to get aligned with Oracle terminologies as well. No? Now, for example, see this output. If you take a look at, we have global checkpoints. Okay, let me show you again. Let me break it again. Let's do it like this. Let's go here and let me terminate this one. And let's start the alert tracing again. And on the left hand side, let me run this command. Auto system switch log file. So this will definitely do a checkpoint type called log switch checkpoint. That is because beginning log switch checkpoint, that is why. So you can see the direct terminology. Oracle from the server, the output, the terminology given by Oracle server itself is mentioned as log switch checkpoint. So that's why when you learn in the theory, it is easy to understand if you can map what is mentioned in the practical output to the theory. There are less confusions. And other thing we learn, auto system checkpoint. Now this one, it says beginning global checkpoint. In our document, we have mapped the exact output as theory. Practical output is 100% getting aligned with the theory. But in the documentation, they are talking about something called thread checkpoint, where we can't find it in practical terminology. But what do you mean by thread checkpoint? That is global checkpoint. Table space checkpoint, partial checkpoint, those things are okay. Table space checkpoints are equal to partial checkpoint. That is there even in our document. It is there as partial checkpoint. We will understand it later. And the other type they are mentioning is incremental checkpoint. That is also fine. That is, we are following the same terminology in our document also, incremental checkpoint. So the difference what I did, amendment or the change that I did to the document, global checkpoint we explained in the previous session. It is there as it is. In the previous document, before the change, log switch checkpoint and the incremental checkpoint, both were the same. And we didn't have a separate category for log switch checkpoint. We mentioned log switch checkpoint / incremental checkpoint. We took both as one. But now, to make it easy for you to understand, I separated log switch checkpoint. The reason is there is a implicitly visible, very clearly visible in the practical. There is a checkpoint type called log switch checkpoint. So we need to understand that one now. So what do you mean by log switch checkpoint? So let's try to understand that. Log switch checkpoint also we can say it falls under global checkpoints, because even in the log switch checkpoint, all dirty buffers from the buffer cache will get temporary plus, same explanation where we did for the global checkpoints, and the control files will get updated. And data file header part also will get updated. Same thing as global checkpoint. But there's a small exception or a change. Data file header may or may not get updated in between the cycle. Because when the log switch happens, in between the cycle. Now, in our case, you may remember we had 3 log files. We can go to the practical environment. We had 3 log files. So switching from 1 to 2 and 2 to 3 means in between the cycle. When you finish in the third one, it has to override the first one. So that is overriding. So overwriting the cycle will always cause a global checkpoint category to happen, and it will definitely going to update the control file and data file header part. But in between the cycle, without updating the data file header part, it might do the log switch. and it will allow it to log writer to write to the next log file. So that can happen. So if that happens in the alert file, you will see checkpoint not complete message. We see it practically. So this is possible. But anyway, normally when you are explaining, we are not going to deep dive this much because it's not necessary at this level. But I am just telling for you to understanding in more detail. Normally, we are categorizing log switch checkpoint also under global checkpoint. That is the normal explanation. When it happens, I just explain old system switch log file. That is when we are pausing a log switch and automatic log switch, because when the file get finished, it should automatically switch to the next available log file. Now this document, I think, let me open that one. This is the same graphic that I was using in the previous explanation as well. Yeah, in this document, we can see that. So when we have 3 log files, now you can see here we have 3 log files. So this will be the first one, second and third. Now in between cycle means going from this to this and this to this. So when it's finished this one, it should come and override. So that is what I was just explaining. And the same thing we have explained in our, you may remember, the architecture. In the architecture, we present how the log switches and log redo log buffer, redo log buffer, circular buffer, those things are working. This is the same thing. In between the cycle, I am just revising these things for you to make it easy to understand. And log switch happens in between. And once it reaches the last one, it goes and override the cycle. And definitely there will be a checkpoint should have been completed. Yeah, because before overwriting, all the completed data in this particular log file should be sync up with the relevant data file. That's what we mean by checkpoint should have been complete. In between the cycle, there are checkpoints are happening, but it may not always cause the data file to be updated. Updation of the data file can be initiated, but before completion the updation of the data file, it will do the log switch. So that is what. Okay, let's get back to this one. Now we can check these things practically. So let's switch to our hands-on environment. At the moment, okay, completed checkpoint. Let's take a look at my log sequence and all. I can just simply run this command. Select group sequence status from video log. Okay, at the moment I have 178, 76, 77. So 178 is my current sequence. Now if I do a log switch, just notice the status as well. Current means that is the one where log writer writing in. Inactive means checkpoint is completed. Just watch what happens when I run this alt system switch log file. On the right hand side it said beginning log switch checkpoint. That's what it says, and others you can understand because we have explained this one in the previous practical as well, the CNs and all. And on the left hand side, if I recall this one again, now you will notice active file. Previously current file, current group or file now has become active. Active in a sense, this checkpoint is initiated but it didn't complete it yet. Active means checkpoint pending. Checkpoint pending. But since in between the cycle, Oracle has done the log switch and it has made the next available group as the current group. So checkpoint is still pending, not completed. So as a result, the next group became the current sequence advanced to 1. Earlier the latest sequence was 178. Now it became 179. Now, for example, if I do this, I am typing this alt system checkpoint and see what happens. So I am pausing a global checkpoint. Now this command will say beginning global checkpoint, completed checkpoint. Now completed checkpoint means what? This status definitely should be now inactive. We will check and see. That's what happens because I paused it. It should automatically happen, but it might take time. See, now you can see it became inactive because I paused the pending checkpoint to be completed. So again, I can try out something like this. Let's try out. I am just going to do alt system switch log file. Okay, now again, what will happen if I check the sequence? Again, you will see an active file. The current one was 179, so it should go to 180, and this should be 179 should be group number 2 should be active. Let's take a look at it. So you can see group number 2. Right away jump to from current to inactive actually. It didn't become active. The reason is what? Because I have already paused a pull checkpoint previously. So there is nothing pending at the moment. So Oracle was able to complete the lock switch very quickly. So that's why. You can see almost the output is given, completed checkpoint. But if I keep on trying again, there comes a time it will become active. See, it's giving the message completed from the right hand side. Okay, I'm going to do another lock switch. Now, again, still is completed checkpoint. Beginning and completing, beginning lock switch and completing checkpoint. So let's see what the status is now. See, whenever it says completed checkpoint, it becomes inactive. But if it is pending checkpoint, that means it is beginning, but it's not saying completing. Then definitely file is going to be inactive state. So we can try it out again. We keep on trying to get that status again. We reproduce the previous state. Okay, now it said beginning. It didn't complete. Complete message was not there, but it might complete very quickly. Now if I test this one, see what happens. Now you can see it is active. So previously current one, now it is active because it didn't complete. This message was not there. Completed checkpoint not there. Only beginning checkpoint is there. So it is pending at the moment. Switch is happening. That's okay. That's a control file is getting updated, but data file sync up is still pending. That is what. Now if I do another lock switch, now at the moment there is one file is active. No, this is active. This is current. If I do another lock switch, what will happen? It should initiate another checkpoint now. Again it says begin lock switch checkpoint, but nothing completed. You don't see any complete message here. Now it has initiated 2 checkpoints without completing any. So if I select this one, we can see that output. In between the cycle, this is possible. See, now both are active. That's what. So this was the same theory that I was explaining. In between the cycle, without updating the data file, it will allow you to continue to do the lock switch, or it will keep the checkpoint as pending, but it will just update the control file. It will allow you to do the lock switch without completing the checkpoint in between the cycle. Now if I do another lock switch, see what happens. Now it has to definitely, this is the current one now, it has to come and override this one now. So let's see what happens. I'm going to pause another lock switch here. Now 183 is my current, end of the cycle. So coming back to first one means it should come and override. So at the moment current file is the end of the cycle, the last lock group in the cycle. So if I do a lock switch again, it should override. That means it will override the cycle. That means it should start right into the very first log group or log file. So let's see what happens. Active. And now you will notice the output. See, it completed 2 checkpoints. The reason was, if I just query this one, you will notice what is the reason, because there were 2 active files and now if you notice both have become inactive. That's what. So that is the reason to complete the both checkpoints before overriding the cycle. That's what happened. So when cycle overriding happens, definitely control file and the data files both are getting updated. But this again may vary. Now in this scenario it went as per the theory, it did everything. That's fine. Now in this particular scenario it went as 100% as equal to the theory. That's okay. You can try it out and see how it behaves again. Do few lock switches and see whether it's behaving the same method. Okay, great. I hope you understood what is happening there with the lock switches and about the lock switch checkpoint. So let me explain the incremental checkpoint in the next session, because this session is going for a long time. Okay, let me explain the incremental checkpoint in the next session. I'll meet you soon. Have a great time. Bye bye.